Hello and good evening. I am Deran Young, founder and CEO of Black Therapists Rock. I think some people have already met me. Can you just wave your hand if you've already met me? Say hey. We've had a long, wonderful day, right? Wonderful day. It's been great for me. So I want to do an activity. We're going to start this hour off with an activity, and then we're going to have a Q&A. However, I also want to make sure everyone knows that this is being recorded. And if you're not comfortable with being on video, I believe Ashley said she would be outside if anybody needs to discuss that with her. We named this presentation, I Am Black, but I Have Parts That Are Blue. And we just want to give you kind of an idea of the social oppression and psychological factors that kind of might play out in the mental health room for some of your clients. And it looks like we just have a few more people coming in, so I'll give maybe one more minute to close the door.
It looks like they bring you more chairs.
Okay. And I do need one brave volunteer. One very brave volunteer from the audience. Okay. Let's go with the gentleman over here in the red shirt. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And actually, since I'll let her take this one first. You'll just have a seat right here in the chair for us. Like I said, this is just going to be a little bit of a visual. And since she was so brave, I'll let her read something for us first. And you won't read yet. We could just take some of these and pass them around randomly. There's only 8. So what we're going to do is the first person will come up. She has number 1. You should have a number in the corner of the card. The green cards are going to go first. Sorry, is that yellow card? Do you have a yellow card or a green card? With stripes. Okay, no, the yellow cards go first. I'm sorry. Let me see your card. Let me make sure I have this right. Yes, that you have a positive card. So the yellow cards are going to go first. So if you have number 1 in the yellow cards, if you can come in and find a seat, if you can. There's a few. There's one over here and another over there. Someone has a yellow card with the number 1 in the corner. No one wants to read it. Okay, so you'll come up. Don't read it yet. I'll tell you what you're going to do. If we can go ahead and close the door, because this is going to get real interesting real fast. So you're going to read your card out loud with the microphone, and you will place a scarf over this nice gentleman's head.
In what order?
However you, as you're reading it, after you read it, however you want to do it.
He's going to get it first. Sorry, dude. Covering his face?
Yes.
All right. Shall I go?
Yes.
All right. You are a black woman over the age of 20, and therefore are 56.9% chance of being obese. Have a. So you are a black woman over the age of 20 and therefore have a 56.9% chance of being obese. You're welcome, dear.
Someone has card number 2. Yellow 2. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. You are twice as likely to experience the death of 2 or more family members by age 30.
Okay, yellow card number 3. Yes.
You are 4 times more likely to be born in poverty.
And yellow card number 4.
There is a 60% chance that you will be sexually abused by the age of 18.
So let's check in with our brave volunteer. How does it feel or look under there?
It's pretty dark and pretty close. Yeah, that doesn't feel great.
Do you feel like there's access to support or help?
Not from here.
No.
No.
So I just wanted to provide a visual representation of what it's like to be someone who looks like me. Someone who wakes up every morning knowing that I'm more likely to experience all of these negative things plus so much more. It's a pretty heavy weight to carry. Did that last scarf was the lightest. Did it feel very light?
No. It added significantly. Cut off more light.
He said it cut off more light, right? So even if you're not having that experience, just knowing that you're more likely to, that someone around you, someone who you know, someone who you're close to, may be experiencing that, it gets pretty dark, right? So now we have green cards that are protective factors for the average Black American. And if you have the number 1 green card, if you could come up, yes, and you get to remove a scarf as you read the green card. And he's very happy about that.
You are more likely to utilize spirituality as a protective factor.
Green card number 2.
A sense of cultural pride is likely to boost your confidence and sense of self.
You just remove a scarf. She was going to leave you under there. Thank you. Green card number 3. He needs help.
A culturally sensitive therapist gives you a 47% chance of positive outcomes in regards to symptoms of anxiety and depression.
She's that culturally sensitive therapist, so he's feeling better. Green card number 4. Does it feel better already? Yeah.
Today, the black college population has grown. Today the black college population has grown to 1.4 million. This is over 30% increase since 1970.
Look at that hair. Thank you. So how does it feel now? How does it feel to have someone kind of uncover you? Do you feel seen? Do you feel able to breathe?
Yeah, and there's there's friendly faces, right?
Yes.
So that when it's off, there's a community to belong to.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so another round for our brave volunteers. So like I said, we've been talking a lot today, and it's been a long, heavy day, and I just wanted to provide kind of a visual for you to take away with you as you are continuing to process all of these things and the different parts that come up around this conversation. I have 5 wonderful colleagues with me. I feel like I've been talking all day, so I'm going to let them speak a lot for the remainder half of this presentation. They all come from various backgrounds and various specialties, so I think it's really important to know who they are, both as professionals but as personal individuals as well, because the one thing that kept coming up for me today is that the experience of Blackness is very diverse. based on different levels of layers, right? Even as we have different scarves, different colors of scarves, different weight of scarf. So I think it's really important to get to know each person's personal background or personal lens, as well as their professional expertise as well. So we'll start with Amanda.
Hi, my name is Amanda Herbin, and I am a family therapist in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am also the mother of 4 boys, which challenging, I know, challenging as it may be for so many various reasons. However, culturally challenging because of the things that I have to worry about currently in society that affects my 4 sons. One of the topics I did touch earlier is I have an 18-year-old who drives. And the stress that I experience when he is out driving, whether it's day or night, it's very stressful for me and my husband to think of what could happen to him on the way home. Not because he's involved in any activities that he's not supposed to, but simply because he's driving. He can get pulled over. He may not have the right answer. So as a therapist, there's that connection of I work with families and I consider what they go through. But then as an African-American woman, I think of the things that I go through with my children, such as one of the things I also mentioned earlier was naming my children a certain name so that they had opportunities for school, so that they had opportunities for jobs, so they have better opportunities in this world, which is a stress that we experience every day. It's something that we have to consider as we move forward. That's been a bigger part of my parenting. So as a parent, I have the stress of raising 4 boys. It's a lot of energy. I don't know if anyone has boys. They're up and down. But then raising them culturally and keeping them alive. Every day is a struggle to keep my sons alive. Every day is a thought in my head. Every day it's something that me and my husband plan around. What are we going to do next to keep them alive? How are we going to teach them to survive? How are we going to teach them to be resilient? How are we going to teach them to talk and answer appropriately so that they are not judged? How are we going to teach them to be what society needs them to be? Not even what they want to be, not even what I want them to be, not even what they can be, but how do we teach them to exist in the world that they are in today? So that is a very real experience for me as a mother and for me as a therapist as I move forward.
My name is Nicole Smith Thompson. I'm a school psychologist in the School District of Philadelphia. I also went to school in the School District of Philadelphia. I have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. They all attend the same district that I teach in. And in the past years that I've been there, I realized how much lack we have in the district. Just realizing that we don't have the proper programs, we don't have the proper funding, and we don't have the proper training as professionals to service the children that we do. A lot of times I face situations where I have to qualify or not qualify a kid as having a disability to receive special education services. And it's only because we don't have the services outside of being labeled as special ed that they're labeled sometimes. In speaking with some of my colleagues, Chris in particular, he was saying how it's really difficult to get his child labeled. But what I've noticed in my district is they hand out labels like candy, which causes our children, our black children, to have disabilities over a third of the population. And we're only about 13% of the population in the country, which you can see is very disproportionate. What drove me to be a school psychologist and work in the district that I'm in is because I grew up in Philly my whole life. I grew up in poverty. I grew up in North Philly, and there were no resources there. When I went to school in elementary school, we didn't even have a cafeteria. We ate at the desk, and we bought placemats to eat. So just going through that my whole life, seeing the lack, I just wanted to serve the same population that I grew up in to provide them possibly a better outcome.
My name is Reginald Cunningham. I'm a counseling psychologist in Washington, D.C. And earlier today, when I introduced myself, I jokingly introduced myself as the angry black man. But in reality, just sitting here, once again, listening to some of the stories of my colleagues, reviewing things that are going on in today's society, it angers me that we even have to be here talking to you. That's a part of me that's, see, I'm learning. That's a part of me that I have become so fully aware of just being here these past 2 days. It's been extremely rewarding for me. But again, yeah, I'm angry. There's a part of me that's angry, but then there's that part of me, as I said earlier, that I want you to get. I want you to understand, and that we're not just making excuses. We're wanting equity. We're wanting to be recognized for who we are. I wasn't raised in poverty like a lot of my cohorts are. I was raised in a two-parent family. I've had advantages that a lot of my friends have not had. I've had some downfalls as well, but the fact is, I'm here trying to make a difference. I'm here trying to represent the best that I can of who my people are, and hopefully through some additional dialogue, which is definitely needed, we will all get there one day.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Charnessa Pleasant. I go by Charlie. It was almost really immediately as the room began to fill up, and we're back in this type of fishbowl-esque type of setup, that I had a part of me that came up really strong that wanted to give you my narrative, my go-to narrative about who I am and what I do. And I'm asking that part right now to relax and just be open, because I recognize that when I give you my go-to narrative, it's how I close my heart. So that's all I'm offering right now. And we'll just see what comes up.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Dillard, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. Recently relocated to Atlanta, Georgia from the great city and state of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Woo-hoo. Yes, and I've been in school-based therapy for the past 4 years. I've worked in schools for over 20 years, and somebody had the brilliant idea that I should just go get the technical knowledge and the letters behind my name. So I went back to school to become a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've worked as a clinician in school-based for the past 4 years, and now I'm starting a private practice in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm married. I come from a Christian background. I have four children, 3 boys and 1 girl. And it's hard raising children, black children, especially black boys in today's society. I have 2 grandsons and 1 granddaughter. And so sitting here is as much for me, for you, as it is for them, and trying to change the narrative about when you hear the word black, you know, even the way people say the word black, it just comes off as something, you know, with disdain. And, you know, there's so much tied up in language for me, and I pay close attention to language because I've had to. I also bring to you an immigrant perspective. I migrated to the United States in 1982. And we were coming to America because it's a land of milk and honey, and the streets are paved with gold, and everything is going to be so much easier, and we'll have opportunities. And when I came to America, I lost so much. Nobody told me that in pursuit of these opportunities, you would lose culture, you would lose self, you would lose security, you would lose what you know to be true. You would be learning and unlearning all the way through. And so I've had to create the opportunities that I have in life. And so that immigrant part of me has had to be silent a lot of times. It was easier to assimilate as an African-American woman than to go through the constant struggle of being a Jamaican woman in America. Because every time I opened my mouth and I talked with my accent, somebody had something to say about it. And it wasn't acceptable. And so that part became silent. As a result of that, I didn't share my culture as much as I should with my children. And I've since reconciled some of that, and that's why I'm here to tell that story. Because the immigrant that looks like everybody else up here is missing. And that narrative is missing. And so when we talk about black, I caution us to be careful of throwing everybody in the same bowl, in the same melting pot, because our stories are so different. Thank you.
So if I may ask of you all, as my fellow colleagues, I'd like to just hear your reflections from today, if so far as what you've processed in about, what, an hour. If you're able to just speak about what you've gained today, being here today.
I guess I'll go first. I'll be really vulnerable as I speak right now, because I don't want to hold anything back, because I want us all to get the most that we can out of this experience. And so I'll just really tell you how I felt. It was very exhausting, for lack of a better word, as all of the emotions and all of the thoughts that I felt. You know, I am learning too from this, that I realized that there were some things that I had inward, you know, noticing that when I walked into the room, I felt afraid. Noticing that as we did the original fishbowl, and I sat in the front of the room and we didn't know we were going to be sitting in that style, and it began to happen, the anxiety come over me really, really quickly, as I felt afraid and judged and fearful and cautious even of what I was going to say, not feeling able or free to say what I know I really wanted to say or what was really deep inside of me. As the experience went on, and I'm glad the way it happened, it became a little bit more comfortable, because I watched everyone else be very vulnerable as well, share their experiences, share what they went through. Hearing everyone's story, and not just our stories, but your stories too, hearing how you relate to this topic and how you relate to what we're feeling and what we're experiencing and your desires. It brought something, and I don't even know if I can put it in words yet, but it was very powerful. If I could use any word, I would use powerful. It was very powerful today, what I saw happen and what I saw being created or attempt to be created, as we have a narrative that we are using, and as we are listening to the narratives that are given to us, and as we are sharing information that I don't know if it's ever been shared in this style before and in this light, but I do see the need for this to continue. And that was one of the things in our breakout groups that I shared, is continuing the conversations past today. continuing these type of conversations outside of these rooms, not letting these conversations die here, not letting what you are all feeling and what I'm feeling die in this room, taking it back where we all came from, taking it back to people we care to share it with or don't care to share it with, but just sharing it. It starts here, but it doesn't have to end here. So that was one of the deeper parts of me that I identified, that I felt was just that really, really big need to say, I hope everyone learned something. And I can't make you learn something, but if you did, share it with someone. Start a new narrative, which is pretty much, I'm assuming, the goal of this is starting a new narrative where you see us differently and we see you differently as well. I don't have the desire to be afraid, but I was afraid. I don't have the desire to feel the way I do about my children or be afraid for them, but I am. But I've learned for myself that I have to identify those parts within me that cause that. So that's something I will take home with me, and that's something I will be able to share with everyone, even in my community and other communities, which is what causes that inside us. So that being said, I really, really hope that everyone will take exactly what you feel now and grow that. But not in a negative way, but cultivate that in a very positive way.
So my overall experience, just speaking of where I am right now, I was really impressed with the level of empathy that I experienced earlier. So many times, and I'm speaking for me, of course, but for us as a people feel isolated. We feel like we're going through all of the struggles and the difficulties alone, because everything that you see on media is geared towards us, and we're the ones suffering, and it's like we're crying out for help, but no one seems to, I'm sorry. No one outside of us seems to really understand it. We're often labeled as sensitive, as, combative, as animals. And we've seen our sons, our fathers, our daughters, mothers being executed in the streets. And just to know that people actually care and want to learn about us is just something that really touched me really deeply. When I was first coming into it, I was, of course, nervous, anxious about how everyone would be receptive to it. I thought I would see like a lot of defense. I didn't see any of that. I actually saw people opening up, getting emotional, crying, explaining, their level of comfort or lack of comfort, discussing social issues. So I'm just very glad to be a part of this discussion. And I actually had one of the women come up to me and tell me that she wanted to start a discussion in her own neighborhood. And that made me feel wonderful, because if we can start this discussion, no matter how big or small it may be, we're planting seeds, and I got it from her. I don't see her in the audience. We're planting seeds, and those seeds are growing. And the more they grow, the more, awareness we start to spread. And I know it's really bad right now in this country, but I'm very hopeful that it's going to get better, because to me, I see where we are as a country as a second civil rights movement. So it has to get worse before it gets better. And we need the people like yourselves in this room, other allies, to help us get to that better place. So when I say I'm totally honored to be here, just to express how I feel and to know that we have people listening to us.
I think that what I got from today and my participation in today can be summed up in the title of this forum. The black side of me is proud. The black side of me is overjoyed with the opportunity to be here the opportunity to be me. But the blue side of me, again, is that side that is exhausted. Because when I think about me as a person, again, why do I have to try to describe or explain to you what it's like to be me? I shouldn't have to do that. My son shouldn't have to be the militant that he is on the front lines of Black Lives Matter. But I go back to the black side because this is an opportunity for me to speak up and hope that you get it, but knowing that it's possible that you just might not. That's the sad side. But parts of me are so energized, even though I am so tired. Literally, not literally tired. I'm so tired because today has been a very, very exhausting day, and I think I can speak for everyone up here right now. But we would not be here if we didn't have the empathy, the love for what we do, and the desire to see change.
I think that I'm still processing what this weekend has been, or this whole weekend has been for me. I think that whatever's happening, and I was explaining this to Chris and Deran earlier, is that it started happening on Thursday for me. It started happening the moment I walked in, the moment I was interfacing with presenters, that some type of tapestry was being woven to some type of experience that I don't know if I totally understand it yet. I do understand that I am exhausted. I feel like that for me, it's a deeper work that's happening that I honestly think that don't have anything to do with y'all. Believe it or not. The more that I think about it, and I'll be with my therapist, Tracy, I have her on speed dial. I will be checking in with her literally next week to set up a session, because I'm like, yo, I really need to, I got some shit I need to talk to you about, you know. So I don't know if I totally understand everything about what's happening. I think that I have, if anything, I recognize that I dropped way out of cerebral and moved strictly into heart space, and it happened so quickly, and I did not expect that to happen. I was telling Chris earlier, I was like, I have cried every day since Thursday probably, and I didn't expect that to happen. So I'm very curious about what was transpiring in this environment that allowed me to put down to relax some defenses. And I still have parts that are just kind of like, hey, wait a minute, we not. So I'm still working with that, but no, seriously, because they're just like, this still is white people, and we still really get, straight up. This is my internal conversation with my girls, and so I'm just understanding what all of that means. I'm hoping and I was joking with Chris about this during lunch, but I'm kind of serious. Is that I'm hoping during the I hope the holidays are not peaceful. I hope that whatever conversation that comes across is that we don't, because we use holiday time to it can be a healing space and time to gather with family and friends and different things like that, but. Oftentimes we might be sitting across the table from somebody that that holds some real fucked up views on some things, that have said some things that are really just out of pocket, and not using the time that you're gathered face to face with that person not to challenge it. So I'm hoping that it's that work happens in that space, because I'm relying on a lot of you all to go back and talk to family members that are problematic, because I don't move in those spaces. I'm not at your table. You know, I don't share that type of space with you. And begin to create that that incongruency and that dissonance with that family member that's part of a lot of the things that make me blue. So that's my hope from what I take away from this space, is that I can give that message.
For me today was, it was exhilarating, it was exhausting, it was hopeful. Hopeful would be the word that I would choose to use. Like I said earlier, I am envisioning change. I'm envisioning change in me. I'm envisioning change in the rooms. I'm envisioning change in the model. We've put ourselves out today in a very vulnerable way. And some of you reciprocated that, and were very vulnerable in your responses to what was put out. So somebody asked me earlier, what was I looking for? And I'm looking for bidirectional change. And I think it starts, I haven't been on the front line of Black Lives Matter. It's right in my community. I haven't protested. I haven't walked on the highways. I haven't done any of that. But I think as loud as that was, what we're doing here today is our protest and our activism, and I think this is what I'm contributing to the cause, to change. And I believe that if we're back next year, the rooms, I'm hoping, I'm holding hope, that space, that the rooms will look a lot different. I really am. Because if you continue just to exist with people who just look like you just keep recycling the same thing over and over. And I have to believe that the designers of this model, the designers of this organization is on the precipice of change, or else they wouldn't have us here. And so it was a welcoming space for me. It was, I applaud the facilitators for creating that safety for us today and for holding that, because I felt safe in divulging, you know, some parts of me that I would just shut down and say, oh, that's just white people, I'm not going to talk to them. No, we were open. We were able to be open and vulnerable, and thank you, Chris and Nancy, for creating that space for us. And I think we are on the brink of greatness. And I'm like, what other model has invited people from a different walks of life to come in and sit at the table? You know, what I tell my people is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Right? When people are speaking for you and making changes and you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And today, I felt like we were at the table.
So along with what so many have already said, I just want to acknowledge that this was a big deal. Today was a big deal on all parts. And I first want to thank John Schwartz, because that's who I met first, and is he in here? That's who I spoke to first. And from our very first conversation, I was all prepped up and ready to go, because I know in business and big corporations, you have to be ready. And so when we first spoke, I was ready. And then I was greeted by this amazing person, and I was like, where did you come from? I was first introduced to IFS as a client. It completely changed my life, and it's continuing to do that. So it has come very full circle for me, and I'm just so grateful for you and Dr. Dick Schwartz, because none of us would be here. The healing that I've experienced in my life personally, I wouldn't be the self-led person that I am today if it weren't for your model. So I am forever grateful. Forever grateful. I also want to thank a very dear friend. I hope she considers me a friend. I consider her a close friend now. I'm sleeping in her room, so I guess I would say she does consider me a friend. But when John said he was sending his best to our conference, to speak at our conference, he sent Nancy and Dr. Percy Ballard, and they were absolutely the best. And I've learned so much from Nancy personally already, and I just love being around her. I love our conversations on the phone. She's a wonderful person, so thank you. And the newest addition to my now family, my now IFS family, is Chris, who I have just developed in just 1 month, I think it's been, this amazing bond and connection to. And I think I share that feeling with all of us here, that the whole IFS community is another amazing group of people that I've never experienced. So thank you for the compassion that you've had, for the empathy, and for the courage for having the willingness to go there. Because that is exactly what our country needs to prevent my son having to be 5 times more likely to end up dead on the street. So I really admire your bravery, your willingness, and your compassion, and your welcoming spirits. You've all hugged us like family, and it's been great to be here. And I look forward to our future work. I really do.
With all these accolades going around, you know, it's only been a very short time that the letters BTR, which stands for Black Therapist Rock, has actually been alive. And it grew, I'm sure, beyond her wildest dreams. On the books, we have well over 14,000. That are connected to Black Therapist Rock. And I don't think she really knows just what she's actually done and is doing with this movement because if it had not been for that, we would not be having this conversation right now. And I do believe that. So I do really want to thank Deran, who doesn't ask. She tells us what to do. Because I did not ask to come here. But I do. And I think I speak for all of us that we're very grateful for the work that you do, you know, to bring Black Therapist Rock to life.
So that is our presentation this evening. I know there's lots more going on. There's some kind of dance party happening at some point. I'm not sure if I have dance energy left. But yes, please continue the conversations either with us, connect with us. If people feel led to give you their information to stay in touch, you can definitely stay in touch with us as an organization. We will stay in touch with you all as an organization. Like I said, I'm very much excited about the way forward. I've been to several trainings and conferences and met with other collaborative partners, but this one so far is the best. So I'm excited. I'm a little bit afraid to open up the questions because I know that you all probably want to shower us, but I think we have time for maybe 3, if anyone wants to provide comments or questions. Yes. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Rachel.
Not so much a question, but just to kind of second what you've all been saying about the reality of what it means to be black. I had an experience, a teaching experience 20 years ago when I was first training in my internship to become a therapist. And I think my very first client was a black man. And I think I did fairly good therapy with him. We worked for a long time together. But I'll never forget the day that he turned into a teachable moment and he said, "There's one thing I need you to know. You will never realize what it means to live with white privilege." And I sort of challenged him a bit and I said, "Well, I think I have a bit of an idea of what it means." And he said, "I can tell you something. I'll bet you have never knocked on a door that you'd never been of a house or an office or anywhere that you'd never knocked on before and felt terrified just because you're black." And I said, "No, I've never felt terrified to knock on a door." But it just taught me that it was something that I just wasn't conscious of, that it's such a privilege to be able to do such a simple thing and not feel second class, terrified, afraid. What are they going to say? What are they going to think when they see a black face? So it was something I never forgot. And God bless you all.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, for speaking from the heart. I wanted to say that during the past year and a half, particularly since the rise of the Trump candidacy, I think white people have a special obligation to fight the rise of white, the reemergence into the more open space of white supremacy. So I started wearing a Black Lives Matter button. And last year's conference, at the closing event, I mentioned that people had come up to me, said, "I like your button," so I give them 2. I say, "Here's one for you." And someone says, "I like your button," here's one you can give them. So over the past year and a half,
I love that.
I've given out hundreds, literally hundreds of Black Lives Matter.
Can we give him a round of applause? This is amazing work. That's very brave.
So, but I want to share with you something that's a little. In fact, one person came up to me at the end of the conference and said, I said, "How many buttons do you want?" He said, "I want 100 buttons." So I just gave him the website so he could. But I've got several bags of them. So if people want a button, come and see me. There's a second thing that I think that white people can do. And I've been doing this in the past year and a half. And it speaks to the point, where's Reginald?
Behind you.
That Reginald made about why is it that the burden rests on the shoulders of people of color to teach white people about what it's like. And so in the co-housing community where I live, in my workplace, we formed a reading group to read Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. To read Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's book, Americana. To read Debbie Irving's book, Waking Up White, and to read some of the items that are on the reading list of the IFS Racism Study Group. And what I've found is that by delving into the literature and the film and the experience of people of color, we can begin. We can begin the super important task of beginning to understand the lives of people that the white people have oppressed in this country. And I think that each of us can be ambassadors for that kind of understanding. You're coming here tonight, you're being part of this conference is so meaningful, so helpful to building that bridge and building a movement of mutual support. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. What's your name? I just spoke. David. Thank you, because we talked about it in our earlier session, and it was one of the points that I had mentioned about not conflating the issues when it comes to black people and actually calling it what it is, the issues that black people are dealing with. The fact that you're carrying around Black Lives Matters pens is not saying people of color matter. It's specifically bringing attention and identifying a set of circumstances that we are experiencing and not conflating it, not messing it, not muddying it with other things that are going on with people of color. I thank you for being able to read, and I even struggle with his name, Tahini Coates, right? His work and the work of the other authors whose names you choke on, because it gives me hope that one day we don't have to name our kids white kid names in order for them to get some type of recognition. So thank you for being very intentional about learning, just in learning how to the pronunciation of difficult names that hold weight and means a lot to the people who have those names. That's intentional work for me. That's the demonstration and the modeling of how to stand with us in doing this and not doing it in a way that keeps you safe. Because that Black Lives Matter pen is not safe. It's not safe. It comes with a lot of aggression, even towards white allies who are in here that's doing this work. And the fact that you're saying, I'm not only willing to wear it, I'm willing to give it to you, and then you can give it to somebody else. It also says that I'm willing to risk some safety. So I just wanted to say thank you for being a demonstration for the room and for your colleagues of what it means to center us, to center blackness. That's important to me. Yeah.
We have one last person. Yes.
So I was wondering, as therapists, what do you do? How overt are you in the room at addressing race when it's it seems like, I know it's not an IFS term, but a transference is coming up around it? For whoever wants to.
I love the way Nancy explained it earlier today in a very IFS way. I'll just say, that was, from all that we heard today, I thought that was really helpful to have almost a connected conversation about what part of you or what part of me comes up when certain things are said. That's something that I actually got to demonstrate in doing the work that we did to prepare to be here today. Because even, as we prepared, we're going through our own process. So if Nancy wants to repeat what she said earlier about that.
I don't know exactly what I said, but, as I think about it now, what comes to mind for me is that, when we're sitting with someone who's from a different culture, and there's an elephant in the room, the first thing I want to do is name that and ask how that is. And if there are parts of me coming up because of the elephant in the room, then I want to name those parts of me in the service of my client and open a conversation. And also, whatever I'm faced with as an IFS therapist, and you guys know this isn't, I know this isn't new to you, to many of you. whatever you're faced with, I want to work with my part so that I can befriend it. And whatever I can befriend in myself, I can befriend in someone else. And so, whatever I'm faced with, I want to be able to meet it with myself. And I want to be able to talk about it. And that's what opens up these conversations. And when I say whatever I need to work within myself, I'm talking about racist parts of me or biased parts of me that I need to not override. I don't want to do a bypass, because that's the truth about, I don't think we can live in this culture without carrying bias. We can't watch the TV as a child and not carry some bias, and those little parts of us can't be ignored, so that when I really have someone who looks like Deran walk into my office, I feel open, and I don't, that little part of me doesn't go, like that. Or if it does, I can say, oh, what is this like for us? I'm noticing, I want to be able to talk about it. I think I said something along those lines.
Yes, right? That was great. Did anybody else on the panel want to speak to it?
It's not a question. I just want to issue an offer and an invitation to the white folks. So at our table downstairs on the first floor, from the group that has experimented for a couple years now on working on our own parts to heal the effects of racism, the hurts of racism, or the racist parts in us. We have a long resource list that we'll email you. We also have a short one that's really good that we'll also send you if you want that. And we want to invite you to find somebody to work with tonight or tomorrow or next week in a dyad between you and another white person, or you and another person of global majority. And we have guidelines for you about how to do that in a respectful, self-led way. And they're on our table for you to take too, downstairs.
Well, since she had an opportunity to advertise, I'm also going to advertise. We are all professional speakers and are willing and ready to help you spread this. So if you need to get in touch with one of us to do a seminar, a speaking, or whatever the case may be, design a program for you, we are all ready and equipped to do that.
In case you're wondering how to kind of get in touch with any of us, because like I said, I know you may not be able to get around to us individually, you can go to our website, www.blacktherapistrock.com. There's a contact us button, and you can send an email. I do check all the emails, unfortunately. We get a lot. And if it's one for someone else, I can definitely forward that to make sure everybody gets the information. So thank you for having us, and thank you.